Good. I want to get into your faith story a little bit, and let's talk about 2021. Obviously you said it being traumatic, and something as extreme as heat exhaustion and
Hmm.
collapsing, but then the disappointment part that comes with that. As a an athlete, I still call myself an athlete, but being retired. But hindsight now, I know that there's always development in the disappointment part, and I had to grow spiritually to actually understand that. How was it dealing with that disappointment, but then at the same time, like, what was the development process, I guess, in like learning that now, or looking back now and seeing that?
There was, oh my goodness, there was definitely like so much growth. I think going into that year, 2021, I did everything right. Like everything that could be done right, at least so I thought I was doing. So I was like eating correctly. You would have never seen me eat any piece of chocolate, sweets, anything. So I was eating correctly. I was doing all my rehab. At the time, like I would wake up super early. Sorry, my dog is playing with his toys. I'd wake up super early and like read my Bible. I don't think I really even knew what was going on. I would read it because in my mind, it's part of the checklist.
Mm,
Like, gotta have some faith. You gotta eat right. You gotta go to practice. And so when I got to the trials, and that happened, I think after the fact, I was in a state of shock for sure. I was like, why? Almost like a why me? And like, I
mm-hmm.
don't understand because I did everything right. Like, even down to the, I mentioned I would read my Bible because in my mind, it's like that's part of doing things right.
Mm-hmm.
So afterwards, I'd be like, God, I just don't understand. Like, I read the Bible every single day, like I did. And I do have a church home here in Fayetteville. It's called CLC, Christian Life Cathedral. I've been going there since I was a freshman in college. And after Olympic trials, I stopped going to church.
Mm,
And it wasn't because like I didn't stop believing in Jesus, but I was just angry. I was angry because I was just like, I don't understand. Like I did what I felt you told me to do, and now I'm stuck here. Like I trained all my life for that and it was taken away. So I stopped going to church. I stopped like praying. I just had a moment. It was probably a couple months again where I was just angry. At the time, like me and my boyfriend, someone I thought I was going to be married to, like we broke up in that same time. So it just felt like a lot was piling on. And again, it was like the why me. But one day, like a guy from our church, mind you, I had been going to this church for like 6 years at this point, 7 years, but I would always sit in the back. So I didn't really know people. I knew the few people that would sit around me, but that was it. And the pastor, I knew the pastor. So let me back up. When I collapsed in Olympic trials, I didn't have my phone. So I was around my family. They were at the hospital. When I got my phone back, I think I spoke to my boyfriend at the time. Obviously, Coach Johnson and them were there, so I didn't have to speak to them. But I got a random call from a 479. That's Arkansas area code. And something told me to like answer the phone. And I didn't answer any other phone calls. Like my phone was blowing up, wasn't answering. But I answered that one, and it was the pastor from my church.
mm,
And he was just like, I know we've never actually spoken, but I'm watching. I know it happened. So he prayed. He prayed with me. And then fast forward, I hadn't gone to church in a few months. Someone from the church called. His name's Chad. He's the communications pastor. And he was just like, I know you do media stuff. Like, would you want to come and film the morning announcements for church? Because I think they noticed that I hadn't been there.
uh-huh.
And so I was like, sure, Chad, I'll come up there. And so I came up there, I filmed the announcements. And then I just kind of, that got me back into going back to church because he was like, I know what happened, but like, how are you? And I just started bawling. I'm like, Chad, I'm so sad. Like, I haven't been coming to church. And he's like, just come to church, like get to know people around you. Like you have a family here. And from that day forward, again, I started going to church. I started meeting people. Um, and I think just over the next few years, I just had to build like spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Olympic trials was in June. In November, like around November 21st, I got baptized at CLC, and they asked like, who would you like to baptize you? And I was like, Pastor Steve. Like I talked to him the day all this kind of started falling apart, like when it felt like my whole life started falling apart. So he baptized me, and then over the next few years, it felt like my church family at CLC just went through like the growth process with me.
Yeah.
I spoke at a women's event and just kind of told them this same story. Um, every year when I get ready for trials, they would pray for me. They would stand me up in front of the church. Everybody would pray for me. Everybody would cheer me on. And because they knew like the anxiety and the stress and just everything that had gone on with that Olympic trials. Um, and they did that up until this year. They still, I mean, every week they still do it. Like, we saw you running. So when I made the team, it felt like I was making the team for like myself, my family, but also like my church family.
Yeah.
Because that family just feels different. Like, it's not your blood family. It's people that I literally only see on Sundays. Maybe sometimes at like a Bible study, because I started joining Bible studies this past year, which was new for me. But yeah, like my spiritual family, they've been through it with me. And it was just exciting, I guess, to also make the Olympic team for them.